There's an increasing realization that judging is political. I saw an article yesterday in the National Post, I guess that would have been the 11th of June 2009. They'd indicated at the headline, "Judging is political, let's face it." And the difficulty being that in Canada we don't seem to realize that the Supreme Court of Canada has now become the ultimate legislature. And by that I mean they have the power to uphold laws or to strike them down. That's of course well known. The difficulty is that we do not question the political bias of judges. We pretend they don't have any, and they do. And the sad part is we attack political opinion without hesitation. But the more important opinions are those expressed by judges. And we have, I think, an artificial sense that judges are above reproach, that they are, in effect, as long as they don't get involved in something to do with prostitutes on the street, they're actually perfect. Well, I think it's high time we realize that judges are just politicians in black robes. And by that I mean, although they can be fair and reasonable and that they can be unbiased, they generally are not unbiased. In fact, judges have inherent biases, as every one of us have inherent biases. The difficulty being that when you have absolute power, like a judge does, and particularly the Supreme Court of Canada does, then if you happen to believe that abortion is wrong, you have the power to make it sound like the law. If you happen to believe that abortion is right, you have the power to make it sound like the law. This is a dangerous situation when you combine it with the attitude of Canadians toward judges, which is absolute, unquestioned acceptance. I think it's time that judicial decisions were open to more public discussion, criticism, and scrutiny. Let's not assume that because the court says so, that is the final word on any subject, and particularly when it involves our freedom. Every single day, the power of the state grows because most judges are appointed from the position of prosecutor. I wish that plane wasn't going over, but it is. Most judges come from the ranks of the prosecutors. They have an attitude that the state is always right, and the individual is sort of a late perpetrator. That attitude is dangerous to my freedom and yours, and I hope you realize that in cases like income tax, the judges will continually return the case to trial, as they have in Clender's case twice now. When the juries acquit, the judges say, try him again, until they get it right. And you know, when on the subject of income tax, I guess the world looks a whole lot different, and government seems a whole lot more friendly when you're receiving $250,000 a year from government as your payment. And you don't have to worry about secretaries. You don't have to worry about office help. You don't have to worry about anything. You're up on a pedestal every day, called my lord, my lady, your honor. And although the Court of Appeal can correct you, they always do so with great deference. Now, the rule of law is an important part of our lives. But let's not make a god out of judges. And let's not assume that because they have opinions, they should never be criticized. And they are never wrong. They are frequently wrong. And if the only place that correction can ever occur, and the only place that discussion can ever occur, is in the Court of Appeal, with all due deference and all the usual phrases of artificial respect, then we're in a sad state as far as freedom of speech is concerned, particularly when judges decide what are the boundaries of our speech, and what are the limits of our speech. I'll never forget the Court of Appeal in Ward versus Clark saying that it's a politician's duty and his privilege, therefore, to defame a citizen. So it's a privilege that can't be attacked under the law of defamation. That happened to protect the Premier of British Columbia and overturn a finding of defamation using the defense of qualified privilege. So I think what we have to realize is that politics doesn't stop at the courthouse door. And unfortunately, we have to realize that it's just as important to criticize judges and judicial opinion as it is to criticize politicians and their opinions. And although as a lawyer I'm sure that I could be in danger for saying so, and some judges won't like to hear it, and there'll be some people like to stop any criticism of judges. I think it's important that you realize that's one of the reasons why in the West that I hope we could build, judges will not be the final word, and freedom will be far more real than it is in Canada.